You are watching Travel World Online.
Singapore to support businesses with $604 million United States dollars for enhanced wage subsidies and rental relief. Karnataka Tourism Society praised proactive decisions of state government, further requested for rehabilitation package. Mayor Kishori Padnekar found COVID-19 vaccines in normal fridge in a leading 5-star hotel in Andheri. Amod joined Phoenix new hospitality division at Dubai World Trade Center. Odisha government extends statewide lockdown till June 17. Bangladesh extends land border closure with India till June 14. Phuket is ready to receive international travelers from 1st July. Tamara Hotels rated among the finest resorts and hotels worldwide. The Wall Street A Business Hotel, Jaipur is offering a quarantine package. Kerala to add passport number in vaccine certificate for natives working outside India. SpiceJet offers free date change till the 30th of June 21. Vaccination package by private hospitals in collaboration with hotels is violation of vaccination guidelines. Vistara added another Airbus A320 Neo to its ever-expanding fleet.
Namaskar. And now the news in detail. Thailand is going to open its door for fully vaccinated international travelers from 1st July. The approved plan stipulates that there would be no quarantine for international visitors who must remain in Phuket for at least 7 nights before traveling elsewhere. It is aimed to accelerate the revival of the country's tourism industry and paving the way for the reopening of other tourist destinations within Thailand. The Tamara Coorg O by Tamara in Trivandrum and the Lac Hotels in Bangalore have won TripAdvisor's Travelers' Choice Awards 2021. Ranking among the top 10% of hotels worldwide. The Tamara Kodai has the distinguished honor of winning this prestigious award and ranked amongst the top 1% hotels worldwide for consistently delivering world-class experiences to their guests. People whose family member is positive and they want to move out to a safe zone, and people coming out from other states and need to quarantine can utilize this offer of staying at the Wall Street. This leading 3-star business hotel in Jaipur offers an array of stay options with 32 well-appointed budget deluxe rooms and including an exclusive suite. Dr. Manohar Agani, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Health, wrote a letter to states, UTs, on some private hospitals giving package for COVID-19 vaccination in collaboration with some hotels. The letter says it is against the guidelines issued for the National COVID Vaccination Program. SpiceJet offering a one-time free date change option to its customers who get diagnosed COVID-19 positive in an RT-PCR test. This offer is valid till 30th June 21. To facilitate Kerala natives employed outside India who are facing issues due to COVID-19 vaccination guidelines, the Kerala government has decided to issue a special certificate mentioning the passport number and the name of the approved vaccine in it. The government has approved a special format for the same and authorized medical district officers to issue such certificates to people who are vaccinated and need to travel abroad.
Singapore Finance Minister Lawrence Wong, while addressing media, said,
"We are monitoring the situation closely. For now, we believe that the measures are working. They are having an effect in helping us curb the spread of the virus, and therefore, we do not think there is a need for a further tightening in our overall posture. We'll provide support for businesses and the impacted work individuals till the end of the heightened alert period, which is June the 13th.
Karnataka Tourism Society appeals to CM Yediyurappa for a rehabilitation package. Speaking about the memorandum, S. Mahalingaya Secretary Karnataka Tourism Society said,
I have met our Honorable CM several times last year also during COVID, and he was kind enough to offering many relief measures. Even this year, to our request, he has already offered direct transfer benefit of ₹3,000 to auto, taxi, and maxi cab drivers. And now we are looking for second relief package from our Honorable CM. We have put few requests which are not going to dent the government. The first request is deferment of property taxes, especially to the hotels and establishments. So we normally, it is supposed to be paid before 30th April. However, the state has extended up to 31st May with 5% concessions. Now we have requested him to allow us to pay the 50% of property tax before 31st October 2021 and another 50% by March 2022. This is our first request. And second, we have also requested for deferment of excise license fee. In Karnataka, we need to renew the excise licenses, all hotel, restaurant, bars, by 30th June with remitting 100% license fee. So that's the reason we have requested him to allow us to renew the license with 50% payment now and balance 50% payment on or before 31st December 2021 based on the pandemic. So another third request we have with the state of Karnataka is electricity. See, here we have to pay minimum demand charges. Under the lockdown, we all know there is no revenue generated by any establishment as such. So that's the reason we are requesting him to waive off the minimum demand charges and allow us to pay the actual electrical bills. This is our third request. And fourth request is waive of exempt road tax payment for the small vehicles, maxi cabs, and mini coaches. And this is because coach operators, big coaches, they have an option to surrender the documents, and they need not pay the taxes. 1.5 to 2 lakhs employees drawing a salary of less than 21,000 rupees in Karnataka, working in travel, tourism, hospitality industry. All of them are registered under ESI in the state. We want our Honorable CM to direct the tourism department and finance department to collect this data and extend the in payment of whatever the possible way the benefits to these employees, because we as an employer, we could manage and survive all these days by paying 50% or whatever possible salaries. Now we are all in a position not to support them. We want government to come forward and support by paying wages and salaries to our staff, so that we can minimize the unemployment problem in the state. Then when we open up, we are all ready to gear up to start off with a business. Then another request, that's the last one, is financial assistance to stakeholders. In fact, many state government have offered financial assistance to the entrepreneurs, including hoteliers, tour operator, transport operators. We all badly in need of financial support. We need some kind of soft loans with nominal interest. In fact, Andhra Pradesh government has offered the soft loan without interest. That means government is paying for the interest for 3 years. We would like the similar package to be worked out for our sector. We are requesting our Honorable CM to form a committee of tourism, finance department, transport department, with the stakeholders to work on this to benefit the our sector, so that we all work together and we are ready when the lockdown is lifted to work, so that we can survive and generate revenue to the state exchequer also. These are all our requests.
Great. So have you got anything since 2020?
Yes, state, in fact, last time also they have offered 5,000 rupees to taxi drivers, auto drivers in the state. Apart from that, we got
that was one time. That was one time.
One time, and for transporters, they exempted us from paying the road taxes for 2 months. And for a property tax, they gave a time to pay the property tax. And also last year also for hotels and restaurants, bar and restaurants especially, they offered First 50% was paid along with the renewal of license. Then balance 50% was time was given up to 31st December 2021. In fact, Karnataka was first state to come out with many these kind of packages, not only these packages, and also to come out with COVID protocols like guidelines to open up the tourism sector.
Did you get any assurance when you met the CM?
We have requested for the meeting this week. We are hoping that we may get an appointment tomorrow or day after to meet our Honorable CM. This is because before they announce the second package, we would like to meet and apprise him.
At the opening ceremony of PATA Adventure Travel Conference in March 2021, Soon Hawa Wong, Chairman, Pacific Asia Travel Association, PATA, in his opening remarks said,
"In line with this strategy, PATA has been continually working in partnership with the Philippine Department of Tourism. That is why PATA is pleased once again to be working with them to organize this event. As vaccine programs are being rolled out all over the world, we hope to see the easing of travel restrictions, and hopefully very soon travelers could be visiting the world again. I'm sure all of us can't wait to pack our bags and hop on the next plane to one of our favorite destinations. Therefore, the role of well-informed travel agents and experts will be even more important going forward. This event provides the perfect opportunity for industry stakeholders to stay on top of the ever-changing trends in adventure travel and discover the latest in unique and sustainable adventure products. With that in mind, we have brought together 60 buyers from 21 source markets and 67 seller organizations from 12 destinations and hundreds of trade delegates. So over the next 3 days, they will network, learn, make new connections, and strengthen existing relationships. As we look towards recovery and continue to build a future where travel and tourism remains a positive force in fueling sustainable development and economic growth, I would like to thank all speakers and delegates for joining us on this journey. The association understands that it is only through the valuable support and engagement of our members and industry colleagues, both from the private and public sectors, that we can rebuild a more resilient, a more responsible, and stronger tourism industry going forward. Once again, thank you to the Philippine Department of Tourism.
Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat, Philippine Department of Tourism, welcomed the gathering and said,
DOT family, colleagues, and fellow workers in the government. Colleagues from the private sector, I'm so happy that a lot of you are here today with us. Ladies and gentlemen, good day. The Philippine Department of Tourism welcomes you all to the Pacific Asia Travel Association, or PATA, Adventure Travel Conference March 2021. In a span of a few months, the pandemic radically transformed the operating landscape of the global MICE industry. Despite the challenges, we are thankful for the opportunity to partner with PATA in organizing this travel mart and conference in a hybrid format as we continue to pursue a safe reopening of the Philippines' tourism destinations. We acknowledge the commitment and continuous support of PATA for the industry's fast and effective recovery through the various technical assistance, information sharing, and capacity development activities they have rolled out. In 2019, the Philippines hosted the PATA Annual Summit in Cebu with the theme Progress with a Purpose, as the pursuit of sustainability remains to be our strategic goal. The Philippines preserves its purpose of ensuring a strengthened and long-lasting collaboration among our tourism stakeholders and industry key partners within the Asia-Pacific region. Further efforts are also channeled towards the promotion of adventurous activities as a product that is very suitable to the demands of the new normal of travel, as it is mostly done outdoors, promotes conservation of nature, and leans away from mass tourism. While we continue to carefully navigate these challenging times, we enjoin the private and public sector to work together in rebuilding the industry's confidence through advocating responsible, safe, and sustainable tourism. Now is the chance for us to recalibrate our objectives, re-strategize our priorities, imagine tourism towards sustainable development, and for the rapid, robust, and responsible renewal of the industry. For this purpose, the Department of Tourism crafted the Tourism Response and Recovery Plan in partnership with our private stakeholders through the Tourism Congress of the Philippines and in consultation with the World Bank. The TRRP aims to first protect and ensure employment and business survival during and post-quarantine, enable government and private sector to work cohesively towards a sustainable and resilient tourism industry for the future, and provide policies and guidelines for the new normal. Moreover, enhanced product and market development was underscored in the said TRRP as one of the 6 thematic outcomes, which will pave the way for adventure tourism, being primarily an outdoor activity and with obvious resemblance to the baseline requirement for a healthy and safe travel. It presents an opportunity for a strong reversal and onward growth. While adventure tourism has been recognized as a global tourism trend and tourists shift their interest to new destinations and experiences, the Philippines' unique 7,641 islands have a lot to offer. On a hastening pace in the previous year, the Philippines enhanced its digital transformation efforts to promote travel and tourism in the new normal with the support and initiatives of our various tourism stakeholders in the public and private sector. Presently, the Philippines retains its proactive stance in exploring new, innovative tourism products, including adventure tourism that will contribute to fast-track the recovery of the sector within the Asia-Pacific region. Today's event is another pursuit of purpose to fulfill the goal of the Asia-Pacific region in embracing new and innovative ideas, advocating the creation of opportunities for adventure and responsible tourism, and advancing the industry through regenerative tourism. This event also serves as a symbol of confidence for the industry that through collective actions, we can bounce back stronger than before. With this, we are glad to welcome you all in this journey to make travel and tourism alive and thriving once again. Thank you very much. Thank you.
During an interview with John Strickland at ATM Virtual, IATA Chief Willie Walsh said,
I think for the first time.
Thank you, John. Glad to be with you.
Because it would be nice if we were sitting in the warm sunshine down in Dubai, which is where I normally am doing these kind of interviews rather than this remote fashion. Well, Willie, as I mentioned, you of course announced, I think at the end of 2019, you were going to hang up your boots, so to speak, and retire. And then the world did intervene, and you stayed on a few months longer to head up IAG and guide them through the initial period of this crisis. But I must admit, you can imagine there was a lot of industry conversations going on when you announced the retirement. And the number of people I spoke to, we were saying, well, do you think Willie's really going to retire? And I must admit, personally, I didn't really see it. I could imagine you wanted to maybe get out on your boat and sail down the Shannon River, have a bit more time to have a few Guinnesses, but it didn't seem that it was likely you would do that. But equally, I wouldn't have necessarily said that IATA was going to be a position that you would be sitting in today.
No, but I, quite honestly, John, I can tell you my intention was to retire. I had spent 41 years in the industry, so I thought that was long enough. But I obviously decided to extend that. And, it shouldn't have come as a surprise to people because I had talked about it for some time. And, internally within IAG, we had been going through the process of ensuring a smooth transition to a new leader. And the board, as you would expect, wanted to be in a position to be able to assess external and internal. I always recommended that Luis should succeed me, and I'm pleased that the board decided on that. So when I announced that I was going to retire in early January of 2020, that was my intention. And as you say, I had plans to get out of my boat and do all the things that I hadn't had time to do. But then with the development of the coronavirus, and as it became very clear to everybody going through February and into March that this was certainly looking a hell of a lot worse than anybody had first expected. I agreed to stay on until September, just to have a bit of continuity through the initial part of the crisis, but also to give Luis a bit more time to understand what he would want to do. I felt bad, and I certainly would have felt terrible leaving in March and handing it over to Luis at that stage, given the state of the industry. And, after I stood down in September, that was it. I was sad to leave, particularly in the circumstances with the way the industry was. But then I was approached about IATA, and I did think about it for a short while, but concluded that actually I could make a contribution in the IATA DG role. So once I sort of embraced the idea, I was 100% behind it, and I'm delighted now. I'm enjoying my time here, still within my first 2 months, but beginning to make some changes and steer IATA in the direction that I think it needs to go at this point in the industry's development, which is clearly still very, very challenging for everybody.
Absolutely, and I guess I think you said when you made your acceptance speech, everybody's leadership style in DG terms has been different. You're not a stranger to challenge. You stepped away from running a specific airline group, but of course the industry is now in its biggest challenge, biggest crisis ever. And maybe you could say that suits your own style to get to grips with that. And I suppose that would have been a key piece of thinking when you took the decision to say yes to the position.
Yeah, I think my role at IAG actually was quite similar to a role at IATA. I think had I been, still the CEO of British Airways, transitioning from that to IATA, would have been much more difficult. But I had sort of stepped back from the day-to-day operational issues at IAG because that's the structure we put in place, which I think was absolutely the right structure. You'd expect me to say that, but it allowed the airlines to focus on the areas that they should be focused on. It allowed us at IAG to think more longer term and spend more time debating strategic issues. So I think that certainly helps with what I'm doing here. I firmly believe that IATA has a very important role to play. I've been active in IATA for many years. I spent 13 years on the board of governors. Stood down in 2018, but I know how IATA operates. I know the difference that IATA can make, but I also know the challenges that IATA faces, and particularly in this environment when clearly all of the members of IATA are going through a very, very challenging time, as you quite rightly say, the most challenging period in the history of the industry. So, I feel the industry needs to have a united voice. There are a lot of things that are in common. Clearly there are issues that not all airlines will agree on, and that's fine because, we are a competitive industry. But there are a lot of issues where, the industry does agree. And at a time like this, the focus really has been on getting international aviation moving again. And I'm optimistic. I think we're seeing, evidence of that beginning to happen now. It's not happening at the pace that I think any airline would like to see. We're still seeing quite I describe it as ultra-conservative approach being adopted by many governments. In some cases, I think their approach has been quite repressive. I'm very critical of what the Irish government is doing because I think their approach has been genuinely repressive, not just conservative. So, we do need to offer help to governments to properly assess the risk that they're facing at this stage, because I think that's something that we as airline executives do very well, because we do it every day. Risk is embedded in our business. It's not something that politicians have necessarily managed on a regular basis, and I think the risk appetite to have is very, very low, and that certainly has influenced many of the decisions that we're seeing at the moment.
Definitely, there's a number of things that we can discuss about governments as we go along. Just a quick couple of things on IATA. When you mentioned there about not all airlines may agree, and I was thinking, it's a broad church. The industry is a broad church, both in size of airlines, financial health, ownership, business model, you name it. Do you see that maybe even out with this particular crisis as one of the areas that you're going to have to give a lot of attention to try to get more unity in getting the industry voice across? And just as a supplementary to that, would you look at maybe even trying to widen a bit of the coverage of the IATA? Because the industry was already in a state of change in terms of business models. So one of the things that I certainly see, and I guess you'd have reflected on here in Europe, is large airline groups like low-cost airlines not in IATA. Do you think there may be a change in the composition as we move ahead?
I'd like to think that when airlines look at IATA, they see value in what it is we do. And that's the point I've been making internally. We can't just expect airlines to join IATA. They will only join if there's something of additional value that we can offer them. And I believe we can do that. In fact, it is interesting that as we go through this, one of the key developments within IATA is the IATA Travel Pass. And as you would expect, that was something that we were designing for our members, but we've had a lot of airlines who are not members of IATA approach us about that, including the major low-cost carriers. So, I think there are aspects of what it is we do does generate value to everybody. If you think back, one of the core activities of IATA was the settlement systems that IATA operated, and they weren't as relevant. In fact, in many cases, weren't at all relevant to low-cost airlines because of their business model. So I could see that if they were looking at IATA, they'd say, well, that's not relevant to me. Therefore, what is it you do that can add value to my business? I take some optimism from what we've managed to achieve in Europe with the creation of Airlines for Europe, because what we saw there was that the 5 major airline groups or airlines in Europe recognized that there was a lot of common ground on issues that we felt needed a united voice. And equally, we recognized there are a lot of issues that just weren't relevant for an association or an organization to focus on because we'd never get agreement. So, if IATA can add value, then I would expect people to want to work with us. If we can't contribute anything, well, then, it's natural that they shouldn't want to work with us. But I'm hoping that we will be able to convince more airlines that being a member of IATA is a good thing. And the more people we have involved, the better. The one thing I do always reflect back on, John, you will know this, is, the IATA AGM in Singapore, where I think for the first time there was open criticism of how IATA operated. And I can remember, the leaders in that debate, Akbar, Tim Clark, and Tim's words have always resonated with me. In fact, I still have the airline business edition from the way they do it every day at the IATA AGM, where Tim is quoted saying IATA is an organization run by the few for the few, and that has to change. And I agree with them. I think that was a valid criticism at the time, and I certainly bear that in mind. So we have to be relevant to every member, not just the big members who've traditionally had representation around the board of governors. We have to make sure we're relevant to every business model and every size of airline, and I can assure you that's something that I'm very focused on.
No, and again, reflecting back to your own experience, I remember one of the chats we had in the past when you talked about your time at the helm of Aer Lingus, and you saw the Ryanair harps kind of going past a window. You recognised this was a fundamental change. If you in Aer Lingus didn't respond, there would be no more Shamrocks, only harps. And now we see the scale of an airline like Ryanair in Europe, or indeed Wizz Air, EasyJet too. These guys have changed the landscape. You've certainly, in airlines you've run, embodied much of that. And I guess to have those voices in the family, so to speak, and all fighting together is going to possibly help in the challenge that you described in getting governments to work with the industry and rather than against it.
Absolutely. And I think we're completely aligned. I listened to what Johan is saying at EasyJet, and I agree completely with his comments. I listened to what Michael is saying. I can't disagree with anything he has said. We're all focused on the same thing here. We want our customers to be able to travel again. We want people, particularly in Europe, where freedom of movement has been a fundamental freedom. We want people to regain that freedom. Globally, we want people to be able to travel internationally. And, we see this as a critical issue, not just for our industry, because it obviously is, you'd expect us to defend our industry, but for global economies. I think we're fortunate that the general economic environment remains reasonably robust. Some of it, I think, is artificial because the amount of support that governments have provided, particularly employee support schemes, to try and keep people in employment, with many sectors adversely affected by this pandemic. But that can't go on forever, so there is a risk that once that government support is withdrawn, we'll see significant increases in unemployment, which will create an economic shock of its own. So, the sooner we can get back to doing business, I think the better for everybody. And we believe it's perfectly safe. Now, everybody understands that governments had to look at taking measures to restrict as much as possible the outbreak of the pandemic. But, given the accelerated rollout of vaccines, which, if you turn the clock back a year ago, I don't think anybody anticipated that we'd have the number of vaccines that have been approved and the rate at which they have been rolled out. The advances in technology with regard to testing, the advances in regard to treating people who contract the virus. So it's a very different environment today than it was 12 months ago. And to argue that all of the restrictions that were put in place 12 months ago are still relevant today, I think is untenable because things have changed. People want to get back to living their lives as normal as possible. And being able to travel is a fundamental part of that.
You are watching Travel World.